All right, cheers, everybody. Today we're taking a deep dive into, well, what else? Whiskey.
Of course. Always happy to talk whiskey.
But we're not just, swirling and sniffing today. We're going to, break it down.
Right. Get into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, most people, they talk about the flavors, right? Like, oh, I taste oak and vanilla.
The tasting notes, yeah.
But what I always wonder is, what's actually going on behind the scenes to create those flavors?
Absolutely. It's fascinating stuff.
So we're going to explore the three big players:
Mhm.
water, grain, and yeast.
The holy trinity.
Okay, so water. Honestly, I mostly think about water as what I'm sipping after a dram
Right.
to cleanse the palate, I never really considered it as a major flavor component.
And that's where the magic starts. Because water, it's not just along for the ride, it's in every single step.
Really? Wow, okay.
Yeah, think of it like almost like wine, They
Yeah.
talk about terroir.
Right, like how the soil and the climate affect the grapes.
That's it. And it's the same with whiskey. The source of the water makes a huge difference.
Oh, interesting. So, are some distilleries known for having, special water?
Oh, absolutely. Some distilleries, they boast about their water sources, like our water comes from this ancient spring,
Ooh, I've totally seen that on bottles.
or it's drawn from this pristine loch untouched for centuries.
It's all starting to click now.
Marketing, sure, but also truth. Because the mineral content, whether it's soft water or hard water, it really impacts the final product.
Wait, back up. Soft versus hard water. What's that all about?
Okay, so soft water, that means it's got fewer minerals dissolved in it, right?
Right.
And that often leads to a lighter style of whiskey.
Hmm.
Think about a lot of the Highland whiskeys or Speyside.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting it.
They tend to be a bit more delicate, elegant.
Makes sense?
Then you've got your hard water that's got more minerals like calcium, magnesium.
And that creates.
The bolder flavors, peaty whiskeys, for example, often use hard water.
So, Islay whiskeys.
Exactly. Islay is a great example. That kind of almost medicinal, earthy quality.
Wow, so that's partly from the water itself. I always assumed it was all about the peat they used to dry the barley.
You're right. The peat's a big factor.
Yeah.
But even before it gets to that stage, the water itself, it's already shaping the flavor.
Mind blown.
Yeah. And in some cases, that water, it's even flowed through peat bogs before it even gets to the distillery.
Seriously.
So it's picking up those smoky, earthy notes right from the source.
That's wild. So we've got the water setting the stage, but now let's talk about the star, the grain itself. I know barley is king, especially for Scotch, but can you walk us through this whole malting thing? Why is it so important?
Oh, malting's crucial. It's like, imagine barley just chilling, right? Malting wakes it up.
Okay.
You're essentially tricking it into sprouting.
Ah, I see.
And that process, it converts starches into sugars.
Which is what the yeast needs.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Sugar, it's like yeast heaven.
Makes sense. But hold on, before we get to the yeast party, it's not all barley, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, bourbon, that's not barley, right?
You're absolutely right. Different grains, they bring different flavors to the party.
Right, like what? Give me the rundown.
Okay, so you mentioned bourbon. That sweetness you get, that caramel vanilla thing,
Oh, yeah?
that's corn, my friend. Corn is the backbone of bourbon.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
Corn, sweetness.
What about rye? Rye whiskey always seems spicier to me.
You hit the nail on the head. Rye
Yeah.
brings the spice, the boldness, a little peppery.
Yeah, it's got a kick.
Exactly. And then you've got wheat. Wheat's like the smooth operator, softens things out, adds a little sweetness, but in a mellow way.
Like an Irish whiskey.
Some Irish whiskeys, yep.
Yeah.
And even some bourbons use a bit of wheat in the mix.
I'm learning so much.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got our water, our grains, but what about the yeast itself? I gotta be honest, I always forget about yeast. Like, it's there, it does its thing, but is it really that important?
Oh, it's huge E. Yeast is like the unsung hero of the whiskey world.
Well, without yeast, you got no alcohol.
Right, fermentation. Duh.
Exactly. But it's more than that. Yeast, it doesn't just make alcohol, it also produces these things called esters.
Esters.
Okay, yeah, you lost.
Think of esters like the aroma factory.
What?
They're what give you those fruity floral smells in whiskey.
Wait, so, like, when I smell a whiskey and I'm like, ooh, I get a hint of pear.
That could be esters you're picking up on.
Get out. So different yeasts, different esters, different aromas.
Precisely. And this is where distilleries, they get really particular.
Like how?
They might have their own special strains of yeast, guarded secrets.
Seriously, like their own special yeast recipe.
Oh, yeah, some of them, They guard it like it's the recipe to Coca-Cola.
That's incredible. I had no idea yeast played such a big role. This whole time, I've been worried about age statements and finishes and stuff.
Casks.
But the yeast is what's making the whiskey smell like bananas and pears and whatnot.
It's a big part of it, yeah.
Man, you really don't stop learning in this whiskey world, do you? That's the beauty of it. There's always something new to discover.
So, okay, this whole deep dive, it's really got me thinking.
Yeah. What's on your mind?
We've been talking about how important the origin of these ingredients is, right?
Right. The water, the grain, the yeast.
It all contributes to the whiskey's identity.
Exactly. That sense of place.
But then, like, what if you took those same ingredients, say, from Scotland, right?
Okay.
Scottish barley, Scottish water,
Yeah.
even that top secret Scottish yeast, and you shipped it all off to, I don't know, a distillery in Japan.
Interesting question.
Would you still get a whiskey that tastes Scottish?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like, can you really replicate terroir?
Is it really about the ingredients themselves, or is it something more?
Right. It's the environment, too. The
Wow.
climate, the air, even the little microorganisms floating around. They all have a say in it.
So it's like you can try to recreate a painting, you know? You
Right.
could use the same paints, the same brushes.
But it wouldn't be the same.
Exactly. There's something about the original that's just
Yeah.
unique.
It's that je ne sais quoi, right?
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm learning here is whiskey, it's more than just a drink.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like a snapshot of a place.
A time capsule, almost.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Man, I'm suddenly in the mood for a dram, gotta be honest.
Me too, actually.
I want to see if I could taste those subtle differences now, you know?
That's what it's all about, exploring.
Well, cheers to that. And a huge thank you for joining me on this deep dive. I feel like a whole new world of whiskey appreciation has just opened up.
The pleasure was all mine. Cheers.
Until next time, everybody, keep exploring those whiskey flavors.